Amanda here from createyourfuture.co. So today I have Angela joining me. Hey, Angela.
Hi, Amanda.
Hey guys, we have a really exciting video. We have a success story that one of Angela's clients manifested some unexpected money. So yeah, and we've got some intentions and affirmations that you can use to manifest money. Just before we dive into it, guys, Angela's got a course, Awaken to I Am, is it?
Yes.
Yes. And, I hear a lot of clients, they email in and they let us know after doing the course that they really feel empowered to manifest anything that they absolutely want. And they find that they understand what they're, how they're manifesting a lot better. So definitely check that out. Link in the description, as well as we are giving away a free course. It's how to find your blocks to manifest anything fast. The link is in the description. And yeah, it's really helping people to build their mental diets to manifest things really, really quickly. So it goes into things like, questioning is a block, and it helps you to find out, what you're manifesting. So yeah, let's dive into this. I'm really excited.
Okay, so I had a client that was basically, she's wanting to manifest money in whatever ways that it might come in. So there's just a little bit of a backstory here. My client's daughter had some medical care probably about a year and a half ago, and she thought it was going to be covered by their insurance. It ended up, it was not covered, and they had a huge medical bill. It was thousands of dollars, and the insurance wasn't covering it. They said, no, that's not an allowable expense. They weren't going to cover it. So she had been making just small little payments monthly to just try to chip away at this bill. So she and I began working together, and so we began to create just some intentions for her, some basic intentions around money. We had some things like money loves her, money is easy to come by, money comes from unexpected places. And then we also had one in there, I use this a lot with all my clients for any area, that she has favor in all capacities. And I love that one. That's a great one for anything that you're manifesting, relationship, money, career, whatever, have favor. So those were some intentions that she was really focusing on for money. So what happened as she was focusing on these intentions and focusing on, money and money flowing to her, she ended up getting a check, 2 checks actually, from her insurance company that were for this medical care that her daughter had. And the total checks was even bigger than what she had paid in her monthly payments. One of them was for several $1,000s. One was for a couple $100s, but it was even more than what she had paid in on those payments that she had been making. So she did a little bit of digging and, was contacting insurance, and it ended up, they just said, oh, that's covered. We covered the expense. And they allowed for more than what actually the cost had been for that expense. That's why she got, more back in those checks. So she ended up getting the bill paid for and then made money, basically got money out of that by her insurance reimbursement. And it really shifted and flipped her view of manifesting money, because very unexpected. She had almost resigned herself to making these payments probably for years to come to get that bill paid for. It was wiped out completely, and she had money to boot. So talk about favor. So much favor came through in this on several levels.
I know. I absolutely love that. That's so amazing, right? I mean, money can flow to you. My secret tip, everybody, secret tip. I haven't told anyone. I'm telling you, let's keep it a secret. I'm just kidding. But the one thing that actually changed around my entire money story was every time I spent money, I would kind of get this anxiety, panic that money was going down. And so what I started doing now, every time I go put my money in a debit, like a, debit machine, or I go to pay or whatever, the one thing I say to myself is every dollar I spend, I make like 1,000 times that back within a week. And, no matter where it is, if I give somebody money, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to get that 1,000 times back within a week, and sometimes I even say how I'm going to get it. A lot of times I don't. I just say, look at, what, I'm going to get that back 1,000-fold, and I actually learned that from my early religious days when I went to church, and when you gave the offering at church, they were like, and you're going to get it back 7-fold. And I was like, pardon me, it stuck with me. And I'm like, I like that. But I think the key is when I use it. I use it when I was having those moments of anxiety, when I was going to pay for something and panicking that I maybe, was like spending money and it was like depleting. And I was like, no, when I spend this money, that's giving the universe permission to send me 1,000 times back, right? I think that's the key to catch yourself in those moments, right?
Yes, I love that because it's just a mindset jump. And I think a lot of us feel that when we spend, that anxiety comes in, but it's that training. Oh, I love that. I'm going to do that. It's coming back. It's coming back. Actually, when I spend it, this is the opportunity to have it return. That's so important. And that mental diet around money is so important.
Yeah. And, it also works with like, I know like, for instance, in business, right? Like I've heard Andrew say, you've got to spend money to make money. And I'm like, well, yeah, when I spend money, I get 1,000 times back. So it makes it that it flows, right? Because money is really just made up numbers on a computer screen at this point. That's how I look at it. It's really just energy, right? And, you can intend that flows to you as much as anything, right? It's about, catching yourself. One thing I did, and, nobody really has to do this, but this was good for me, was I created myself a budget. Because what would end up happening, right, when I was trying to manifest money, but I was like sort of on a set income when I was starting my business, is I would sort of panic. I would go to the grocery store, buy groceries, and then be like, oh, am I going to have enough for the hydro bill? Am I going to be able to cover my car insurance? Like, I just wouldn't have, my budget in my head. You know what I mean? So I actually sat down and wrote out a budget and said, okay, this much goes for my rent. This much goes for my car. This much goes in my savings, this much for groceries, all the bills are covered, this much I get to like play with and spend. And the budget, the act of doing the budget kept me from being anxious about spending money. So when I went to the grocery store and they were like, it's $100, I was like, yeah, no problem. You know what? I've got 200 for the month. There you go. Or whatever the case is, right? So I found it worked for me to cut down the anxiety. And then from that non-anxious thought, I was like, you know what? No, money's just going to flow in. Money's going to throw in through my business. I'm going to get money from all these different places. Like, I think like the insurance company that we have in Canada, I think last year I manifested 3 checks from them. And I don't know if anyone's in Canada and knows in BC, knows ICBC. They are not notorious for giving out money like at all. But there was a bunch of overpayments and it was like, yep, I did that. Thank you very much. Right?
That's awesome. And I love your idea of the budget. It's just a strategy, really. It's something that almost gives us that safe feeling. And because you knew what was allotted. And so that kind of allowed that anxiety to lift because you knew in your mind that it was safe. This area was safe.
Exactly. And it also, when I was paying off debts, it took my mind off of that looming credit card debt because I was like, no, you know what? I'm putting so much every month towards that. So everything was allotted and it stopped me from being anxious and it stopped me from panicking and it stopped me from worrying. So that as along with that mantra I would do that I still do this day every time I spend money, now it's just a habit. It's not that I'm anxious when I spend money anymore. Now it's just a habit. I just do it. It just is on autopilot. It has really helped me to take it to the next level, and like, for instance, buying a house was new to me and apparently there's something called property tax, right? And it can be quite big. So then I would just start intending, no, I have more than enough money to pay for that when the bill comes in. So when you start thinking about those future expenses, tell yourself, okay, you know what, that bill may come. I'm going to have more than enough money to pay for it. I can pay for those bills easily and effortlessly. Like, I also remember too, with my business, when I first started, I had to pay for like the web hosting and it was like a $500 bill. And remember, I'm just on this like tiny little budget starting Create Your Future. And I was like, I was worrying about it a little bit. And I'm like, no, I'm like, I'm going to manifest 5 times the amount of money that I need to pay for that through Create Your Future. That's what's going to happen, and then sure enough, that happened, I'm like, because in my story is because we do such a good thing for the world that people are going to, come for my help so I can help them make their life better. And they're happy to have that exchange, and they're happy to pay me for what I offer, the value to their life. Right. And then things just started flowing in. All of a sudden, I got a whole bunch of clients out of nowhere. And I was like, wow, look at that, right? You know what I mean? So, anything that you're doing, you can intend at work that you get a raise. Oh, that's a good one.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
And that name of the game is like getting rid of that anxiety. That's like that whole key. So it's whatever works, like whatever you have to say or do for yourself to get into that place where you feel more at ease, because that's when it flows, when there's ease. The blocks go away when you are in that flow state. And that's where we want to be, the flow state.
Exactly. So, I say things like money flows to me easily and effortlessly. I get money from all areas. The other thing I actually intend is that things are cheap for me. Okay. So like I intend that I always get free stuff. And what was it? Like Andrew bought a bunch of stuff for his business through Staples, and he got $100 Staples gift card. So I got to spend that the other day. I'm like, wow, free $100. I'm like, look at that. And then I have a credit card, and anyone in Canada will know Canadian Tire. They actually have their own currency called Canadian Tire money. And you can buy pretty much anything at Canadian Tire. So I use their credit card. So every time I use their credit card, they give me Canadian Tire money. So I just went there and spent like $200. So I spent $300. It was basically free money, because if I would have had any other credit card, I wouldn't have gotten the free money. So I also intend that, my mortgage is cheap, and I intend how much it's going to be. I intend that, things get cheaper for me, that my cell phone bill is at a certain amount. So, I like, even though I can manifest the money, and there's nothing wrong with manifesting that my bills are lower either, like I've got to renew my cell phone bill. Well, let me tell you, I'm intending a $50 bill for everything that I have now. And that's what's going to happen, and in Canada, like, it's a lot more expensive than it would be in the States. Like, the cell phone bills can get up into the hundreds of dollars. I know, I used to work at the cell phone company, TELUS, for years, right? But no, I'm like, no, they're going to give me a deal for $50 because I've been a loyal client for like 20 years now with them. And that's what, I'm going in with. So, don't be scared to make those declarations about how much you want your bills to be too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Money saved is money earned. And it's just that mindset that money can come in any way. Saving money is earning money. Getting a refund from insurance is making money. Getting gift cards, money back when you spend money or use a credit card. All of that is money that is flowing to you. It's allowing your mind to receive that and know that it's all money coming to you. You're manifesting it.
Exactly. So what are some intentions and affirmations for money? Mine, please feel free to use it, guys. Every time I spend money, I make 1,000 times back through anywhere. You don't even need to say where through. You just make 1,000 times back. You can do a time frame. You don't need to do a time frame. Completely up to you.
So one thing that I love to affirm is that I always have favor, and that applies to money and anything. Another thing is that I am a money magnet. Money loves me. I have a great relationship with money. Money comes from unexpected places. All of those move me into that mindset of you have no idea where it might come from, but just be ready to receive. That's the whole point. Receive.
Exactly. What else do we got? Money comes to me in unexpected ways. I always get checks in the mail. There is always some kind of perk or benefit, I get a discount, or, I get a gift card from places. I think the other thing that comes to mind too, right, is, I remember I was talking to somebody once, and I'm just going to add this in here because I have got a really bad story about winning the lottery. Like, honestly, I do. And I'm not really worried about winning the lottery. For me, I can manifest money in other easier ways. And I was talking to somebody one day, and I said, yeah, I I've got too much of a story and resistance around winning the lottery. And this person said to me, well, then you got a money block. And I'm like, well, no, I don't. I manifest a lot of money. I just won't ever obviously win the lottery. So I want to, clarify that with you guys, is that, if you basically are like me, where you're like, okay, no, I'm definitely not manifesting money through a lottery, but I'm going to do it other ways. That's not necessarily a block, right? It's a block if you want to win the lottery, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to prevent money from coming in any other area. So it's not a blanket thing. And it can be sort of interchangeable like that. The other thing some people may think is a block is that they think, okay, well, if you intend that people buy you things, right? Like, let's say you intend your friend takes you out for dinner, but they don't have a lot of money. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, you feel bad for them spending money on you. Now, that's not necessarily a block either. That's a block that if you want your friend to have lots of money and they want to spend money on you, and then you're like, oh, but I don't want to accept it because I know they don't have a lot of money. That's a block to your friend being rich. But that's not necessarily a block to you manifesting in a bunch of money or winning at the casino or winning the lottery. So I just want to make that clarification, because I think sometimes we kind of get confused by that. So if you want your friend to be rich and they want to buy you lunch, you say to yourself, they've got more than enough money to pay me, like to take me out for lunch, and they're going to get that money back tenfold within a week. Do you know what I mean? Like, help them out.
Yes. And I was just thinking also, to manifest money is just practicing that attitude of gratitude is really beneficial. I mean, sometimes we tend to focus on what we don't have when we're thinking about finances, but if you just take a look around and focus on what you do have, it just shifts you to that different state. You just kind of enter that state of receiving. It doesn't mean that you're not wanting other things or you're not expecting them to come in, but you just I feel more expansive. I just feel like I'm allowing it to come in when I'm grateful for what I do have and really feel fortunate. So it's a way to make yourself, I don't know, feel expansive is just the best way I can describe it. I feel more open.
Yeah. And, and one thing actually I just remembered, there's a success story from a client years and years ago, one of our clients at Create Your Future. This story really illustrates you don't need to know how it comes. Okay. So basically she had a bunch of debt, right? And she was going to, she wanted to basically deal with the debt, and how everybody says, oh, live from the end of not having debt. But what her struggle was she had an appointment with a debt consolidation person. So like a debt representative that will help you deal with your debt. So she says, should I go to this appointment or not? Is that living from the end? And I said, well, yeah, go to the appointment. It's living from the end of dealing with your debt. Like, that's one of the tools that you've manifested in your life. They're going to help you work out how you're going to get rid of that debt. That's the whole purpose of going. That's in line with your end goal of being out of debt and having all this extra money. So she went to this place, right? And it just so happened that out of the blue, they had this new program that any single mom with like kids between this age and that age actually qualified for this new program. And the new program was that a rich family was basically adopting a family with a single mother with kids. Anyway, so long story short, she had all of her credit cards paid. She ended up getting a new fridge, a new stove, a new washer and dryer. They did a bunch of renovations to her house, and she was debt free. And yeah, and it's just so happened she qualified. She had the perfect number of kids within the age range. She was a single mom. She lived in and she just checked all the boxes. And she was so ecstatic, like so ecstatic. So, it's like when you have something and you don't know how you're going to pay it, you just say, look, I don't know how it's going to happen, but that's going to get paid and I'm going to have tons of money left over. Like, just put your trust out there, because, you will manifest it in ways that you could never have possibly have imagined. I mean, but if you do have a business or like some way that you can manifest money through, like, let's say you've got an Amazon, products out there, well then, intend it comes through your Amazon things. If you have just a job and you don't, and you've got a bunch of debt and you don't have any sort of, money funneling sort of, channels that you've created for yourself, intend that it doesn't matter how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And that debt's going to be gone, or you're going to have this much in your bank, XXX. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, funny story, I can talk about this all day, can I? I was actually in debt when I was a young kid, very badly. And I left it for 10 years, ignored it. And then I had basically broken up with my fiance, and he always had the credit card, and the truck was in his name because I had debt and bad credit. And we were together like 10, 11 years. And then what ended up happening was after we broke up, I'm like, oh, well, now I need to get a credit card. I need to put a car in my name. And I'm like, I got bad credit. So I was going to go to like the debt repayment people or whatever and figure out how to get myself out of debt. Well, the funny thing is I went to go get a car loan, and they went, wow, you got no credit. Nothing's on your credit report. And I said, well, what are you talking about? They said, well, there's nothing there. It looks like you got brand new credit, like you're 19 years old. Like, and I was like, really? And they were like, yeah. And I said, why? They're like, oh, you didn't know? 7 years in a day, your debt basically falls off of your credit report.
Wow.
So my student loan went away, all my credit card debt went away, everything went away. And in fact, there was no debt on my credit report for 4 years, and I didn't even know it. I thought I was, but I just kept confirming I'm debt free, I'm debt free, I'm debt free, I'm debt free.
Amazing.
And then what it did was they call it stat barred, where after 7 years in a day, it's no longer collectible and it's no longer on your credit report. And I was just like, well, look at that, right? So I had no idea about that. And then next thing you know, I've got like perfect credit now, no debt. It all just went away, and I was fully prepared to go and make payments to consolidate the debt, to get it figured out. And I didn't even get that far because I thought, you know what, shot in the dark, the worst thing they're going to ask me for is a deposit because of my bad credit. And it turned out I had no credit. So
that's amazing. I love that. Love it. But it's an example of how this works. And if you don't overthink it, it's going to come in. It's amazing.
Exactly. And just persist with it, right? Like, I don't care how it's going to happen, but I'm going to be debt free. I don't care how it's going to happen. I'm going to have $1 billion in the bank by the end of this year. You know what I mean? And I'm going to get over my lottery story.
Yes.
I'm a 649 winner, baby. But, exactly. It's not about, it's just never overthink these. I think the most important thing that we've talked about is getting out of that anxious state. So, a budget may not be for you. It was for me. I resisted it for years, but when I did it, I found it made me feel really good and secure and neutral and comfortable. And it gave me that platform to be able to intend rather than take me from anxiety, worry about how I was going to pay things, right? But if that's not for you, that's not for you. The most important thing is that you're not anxious when you think about money. You're not anxious when you know that the bill's coming in. You're not anxious of wondering how you're going to pay your rent, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Get the anxiety out of the picture and get insistent on whatever it is you're wanting, what you're believing for. So
exactly. I intend everybody that watches this video manifest some money and comment it in the comments. I'd love to hear. We'd love to hear. Everyone that watches this video is going to manifest some money somehow. And please come back and comment of how you did that, because I always love to hear the interesting ways that money wiggles its way into people's reality, because I think it's one of those things where, like, a relationship is easy to sort of see how it could happen, but sometimes money, like that story I've told about the client and your client's story, I mean, they're just so odd. Who would have thought? You know what I mean? So, I'm interested to hear everyone's money story out there, and the interesting ones, definitely. So thank you so much for being here today, Angela.
Oh, thank you, Amanda.
And guys, thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And I intend that you guys are all rich. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.